And we are live for the third ever DWC Organizational. My name's Alex. I'm here with Adam.
As always.
We're excited and ready for the third ever DWC Organizational, our standard best of three tournament hosted on MTG Arena, hosted by us, the Disorganized Wizards Club, and sponsored by WizardTower.com, the best sponsor of our podcast. Excited for a great day of standard action. How are you feeling?
I'm really excited. Well, I said this on the podcast, but man, we slogged our way through some pretty brutal standard tournaments in the past with the DWC Organizationals. The first and second one was a bit rough. We were living in a pretty dark time as far as the standard timeline goes.
War of the Spark standard was the first ever event.
Into Field of the Dead.
Into the Field of the Dead standard at the beginning of Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah, and Oko, it was just Oko and Field. It was tough, and now I'm really excited because I think that this is probably one of the best standard meta games we've had in a long, long time. I think it's incredible. I don't know what your thoughts are, but
I've been loving standard since
I think
started.
You can do whatever you want. I think there's tons of decisions in the matchup. It doesn't feel like you just get railroaded. You can pick up a deck that's a tier 1 deck. We'll talk about our metagame breakout, but you can pick up something like Clover, and you don't just get free wins with that deck. You will lose with that deck if you've never practiced, if you don't understand how the matchup's supposed to look, if you don't understand the play patterns of what's happening. You will get absolutely destroyed. You will destroy yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that is a hallmark of a good standard format where your decisions are what determine the outcome, not just railroading powerful cards. Obviously, there's an exception. The demon in the meta of sort of the RNG fires, right? This is a deck that sort of doesn't follow this rule for standard, but I think for the most part the rest,
funny enough, you mentioned fires. It is actually a deck that is completely absent from our metagame.
That just goes to show that the DWC listeners are just an ethical normal group of players who want to win based on their mental decisions, not a bunch of RNG. I respect.
Yeah. You love to see it, honestly. But this is actually the biggest field we've ever had at any of our organizationals. We have 40 players out today to battle for the trophy and to be called the champion of the DWC Organizational. 40 players. We have a pretty diverse metagame. 18 different decks in the field today.
Actually insane. That's so nuts. 18 different decks.
And even the most played deck in our field being mono red aggro, only 7 copies, 17.5% of the field. So not a huge portion of the metagame, really.
Well, I got to say it's a good choice because for whatever reason, usually Fires is overrepresented because people are trying to hunt on mono red. But for some reason, the mono red players hit the jackpot in this tournament. It actually looked up pretty well because I think it's probably your worst matchup. Food isn't great either, but I think the Fires is probably your worst matchup. They're just so hateful to you, and they can close the game on you really quickly. They have Clarion, and then they can basically kill you in turn 5 or 6 if they have the really, really good draw.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the rest of the top of our metagame, our second most played deck being Teamer Clover, which is a deck you've already referred to, does have a pretty good matchup against mono red in this field.
It's not bad. It's a pretty good, but I don't think it's as favored as Fires, but it's still absolutely, I think, favored. I think Clover's is probably just as obviously tier 1 deck.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
at this point,
just one of the top possible choices. It's really good, but I think it's a really skill testing deck. Actually, I think it's really hard to play. There's a lot of tricky sequencing issues when you want to take advantage of your Clover, when you want to go all in on something, when you want to sort of make the decision to just run something out for its normal value or versus waiting for a Clover, right? When you have both in hand.
Absolutely.
There's a ton of decision trees. I mean, obviously, we're playing a deck with, how many modal cards.
Exactly.
They
Your
all
whole deck is split cards. So it's there's so many decisions to make on every single turn, many different play patterns. Your complete strategy changes if you don't have a Clover, if you only have an Innkeeper. The games play out very differently, and the deck just has game against pretty much everything in the field. And it is interesting to see its emergence as one of the top tier decks after its win at DreamHack Anaheim a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, where it just absolutely crushed.
Mm-hmm. But rounding out the top 4 decks in our field, Teamer Clover being 6 copies, we also have tied for third, Bant Midrange, Blue White Control, and Jund Food all coming in at 4 copies in the field, 10% of the field.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. These, I think, are about the tier 2 deck choices. I think Bant might be tier 1. I think Bant is incredible. right now. I think it just answers most of the field really, really well.
Yeah, it's been picking up a lot in popularity recently. You know, popular streamer Crokies has been streaming it a lot and
Just
been top 10
absolutely.
mythic consistently.
Yeah, I think he finished at number 2. You know, there's been that deck's really, really powerful. His recent builds of it have been very, very good. Cutting Grazer, I don't know how many people are still playing Grazer, but yeah, I mean, playing Grazer might actually be a good choice today, if only for the amount of mono red though.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have 18 different decks in the field. 11 of those decks are one copy in our field. So very diverse, a lot going on. We're going to see some exciting matches today. But let's take a look at some of our deck lists going on in the top of our metagame right now. Hopping over here, we'll start things off with Teamer Clover. 15% of the field, kind of top dog on everyone's mind going into this event. We've talked about it a little bit already. I don't know if you'd been following much of the results over on Twitter, but a lot of people posting 10 wins in the Mythic Point Challenge yesterday with Teamer Clover decks.
Yeah. This is a deck that it just probably smashes blue-white to the point where I'm a little hesitant. You know, standard Detroit GP is coming up. We're going, and I'm hesitant to even register blue-white, which is the deck I played the most of, or even banned, because this matchup scares me so much. I think that Clover is so powerful.
Yeah, it's one of those decks though you got to get the reps in, because going in without much practice into a popular tournament with this
You're
strategy,
gonna get smashed.
Yeah, it is not the easiest deck to play. Lots going on, but very good against a lot of decks in the metagame.
So yeah, I think that this is the deck in this tournament today that I think is maybe the best choice, but I also think that it won't just dominate the field. I think maybe only 1 or 2 copies will end up in the top 8, only because I really do think it's that hard to play. Like, I think it's that hard to play optimally. And also, other people who are playing other decks, if they're more comfortable in the matchup, will know what to play around and maybe you won't. So it's really becomes a skill-dependent matchup in a lot of ways. And so I really like that. I like that it's a skill-dependent matchup. Mono red can still get you if they know what they're playing around, if they know what they're looking for. Of course, the key cards to look out for, though, in the matchup for mono red would be something like Lovestruck Beast, right?
Absolutely.
Which is just a house against mono red. One of the reasons this deck does well against them, one of the key cards that lets them, control the board, not have to worry. Even with an Embercleave, a lot of the mono red creatures don't get through, right? The early mono red creatures won't get through a 5/5, even with an Embercleave.
Yeah, definitely. Have to agree with you there. So let's move right along. This list, returning champion of the DWC Organizational. This is the Jun Food list brought to you by Benson, who took down our event last time with Simic Food. Staying true to a food strategy this time around, Jun Food has been picking up popularity a little bit over the past couple of weeks. It put up a good result at DreamHack Anaheim. Only one player played it at the World Championship a few weeks ago, but this new build now, moving towards Wicked Wolf Pelucros in the main deck, is definitely an interesting change, and we see Casualties of War back in the main deck. What do you think about this list of this weekend?
So I think Casualties is unbelievable across the broader metagame of Standard, because of Fires, and because I think the Fires matchup is close. I actually think the Fires Jun Food matchup is about 50-50, but with Casualties, I think Jun Food becomes a little bit favored. Right, but it's you've played it a lot, right? It's a close matchup.
Yeah, very close matchup.
But I think he just pushes it over. Unfortunately, for our returning champion, there are no Fires lists for whatever reason in our tournament, which is incredible. Nevertheless, decks like Bant, it's insane against.
Yep, very good against Bant. Very good against Blue-White Control. Very good against Teamer Clover.
Yeah, so
I'm other decks at the top of our metagame. Only deck it's not good against, mono red aggro.
Yep.
You're never finding time to cast a Casualties.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad there, but in every other matchup, you can get some insane high rolls with Casualties where you get to kill, a Clover, a land, a creature. Like it's just so good sometimes when you get the full value. Yeah. Or maybe they're stuck on terrains and you just pound them.
Nothing like a 6-mana stone. Right?
I heard you did that to somebody yesterday.
Absolutely. Actually, against Benson in round 1, he was missing lands in his game 3, and I just 6-mana stone raid him 2 turns in a row.
You'll love to see it.
That's
the kind of modal decision making and standard we come to expect from a good format. You absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting card choices in this main deck. Wolf Will Haven is not a card I've seen in the Jun Food decks recently.
Yeah,
so that's an interesting one.
Unusual one. Yeah, I'm not really sure how it plays out even. I'm not even really familiar with this choice. I am familiar though with Pelucranos.
Pelucranos Unchained is an absolute house. I've been playing a lot of Sultai mid-range in this format, and man, let me tell you, Pelucranos is just always been incredibly impressive for me.
Yeah, that card is definitely, I think, an underplayed, underrated card in Standard. I think when, rotation happens, it's going to be an all-star. When we see a big format shift and we lose War and all the previous years, but Pelucranos sticks around, I think Pelucranos is going to be a card that just does damage out in the metagame. That card is so powerful, so resilient.
Yeah, also a couple copies of Sultai mid-range in our field today. One of them playing 2 copies of Pelucranos, so maybe we'll get to see that at some point. Check in on them. Let's move on over to, I guess you could say, the deck that a lot of people consider to be the top dog in the format right now, being Blue-White Control. This deck has just been kind of
tried and true.
Yeah. Taken down events since Theros Beyond Death came out. It's very consistent, proven to be very good strategy.
How good is Birth of Meletus?
Very, very
Meletus? Meletus? What is it? I don't know.
Take your pick.
Birth. Yeah, whatever. That card's insane. I knew it was going to be good. We talked about it in checking through all the lists. And I knew it was going to be good when it came out when we were looking at spoilers. Just hitting a land drop for 2 mana in your control deck. The Cardinal Sin and Control Mirror is missing your land drops. This is already just an important card, right? It helps defend against mono red.
Yep.
This card is it just does so much in the blue-white deck. I think it makes it so consistent. And then obviously you have your insane sort of powerhouses, Dream Trawler, Archon, Elspeth Conquers Death. ECD has been...
Elspeth Conquers Death, I think, surprised a lot of people.
Not us.
Well, of course not us.
There was a point when we saw it on the spoiler preview, you described it as... I believe you described it as, how did you say it? You said it was, what was the card?
Yeah, Eldest Reborn on steroids.
Yeah, Eldest Reborn on steroids is how you described it. And I was like, yeah, you're right, actually it is. And then it turned out even better. And I loved Eldest Reborn. Eldest Reborn was amazing. But the targeting of it's good in every matchup. Elspeth Beyond Conquers Death is so good that it's playable against mono red. You get to tag their Annex, their Torbrand, their Evercleaves.
Good targets in the mono red deck.
It's actually crazy that in game 1, it's not dead. So from a control perspective, having these sort of high-end removal cards be actually pretty useful. They're live against really diverse threats. Makes this deck so powerful.
Absolutely.
I like shaving down the Narsets that have been made in the decision for this list in particular. I just don't think you see as many Hydra Crises and everything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the green-blue based mid-range decks were very popular at the start of the format. I know Simic Ramp was a big deck, but that deck has fallen off a lot. Now we're mostly seeing Hydroid Krasis in the Bant mid-range builds and the Sultai mid-range builds. And, I mean, Bant mid-range is a popular deck in our event. We have 4 copies, only 2 copies of Sultai mid-range, but I do kind of agree with you that I think Narset is in a spot where we can afford to trim on a couple copies of that.
Yeah, we're probably starting up the round really quick here, right? But I just wanted to say before we get off this list, this sideboard is awesome. 2 Planar Cleansing, a sweet Oblivion. That's got to be insane in the control mirrors. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So love to see it. I think Planar Cleansing actually super good against Jun Food, of which there's a bunch of copies. So
let's hop back to our desk here while we get our main feature match.
Yeah, we're just getting the main feature ready here. I assume the rounds are starting. When do they start? 2 right now?
Yep.
Yeah, we're just getting underway, figuring out who we're going with.
I think we're going to be looking at. Let's check out the bracket here. Looking at mono red round 1.
Be a quick one. We might have to round up a backup match for coverage's sake. Yeah, it looks like our round 1 feature match is mono red versus... I'm not even sure what the next matchup.
Mono red mirror match.
Oh, it's
it
the
looks
mono
like.
red mirror.
But one of our players here, we'll just get Toaster to mute himself so he doesn't pop into the stream here.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah, and then whenever they're starting the match, we'll fire up the stream.
Yep.
Should be good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's some so for those listening to the metagame breakdown here, I mean, there's some other. Jeez, collusion. Let me tell you.
The stream can't see it, but Toaster just popped up a funny little note to us. But
yeah, what else we have here? We have blue green flash is one of the one-ups. I'll talk about some of the one-ups. A mono green stompy, which is gotta root for that. We gotta figure out get that person on feature match. We need this. We got a blue white. Is that blue white aggro?
Yeah. There's a blue white. The blue white aggro deck is basically mono white aggro, a Heliod deck, but it's playing Dovin's Veto in the main deck.
Dude, we got to get that deck on coverage. We'll get that deck on
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, there's an Esper control, which I assume just plays similarly to blue white. Probably just Thought Rasher is taking up a slot. So it could be something like that. It's hard to say, yeah. Then we got some BR aggro. Bant Enchant ramp. That deck looks sick. We got some Simic Flash, Sultai mid, a bunch.
Yeah, so looking at the matchup right now, we have two mono red decks. One of them a little bit different.
Whoa. This is not a mono red deck. Can we put this list up on screen? Can you just pull this up so people can see this?
We're gonna pop this one over here. Let me take a look at this bad boy. Marauding Raptor Annex.
When we said
Tectonic
mono red,
Giant.
this is not what I expected. Holy, this is chonk red.
This is going to be an interesting one. We're playing an Ilharg the Raised Boar. We're going big.
Dude, this deck is wild. It's playing Heraldic Banner.
I have not seen a deck like this before.
Okay, so at the very beginning of the format, in the podcast on a segment called Wacky Shit I Lost to recently, this was one of them I talked about.
Oh, really?
I got full-blown stomped 2-0 by this deck. It's the only time I've ever seen it otherwise. And I did nothing. Like I felt like I was playing some junky mid-range deck, like Sultai mid-range or something.
Yeah.
And they just played a Raptor into Annex into Illarg, and then Dusk, Dracuseth me, and I was like, oh, and then they did it the next game.
That's all she wrote.
That was the story of my tournament. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It looks, I don't know. I'm so excited to see how this plays out. So I don't know if their matchup's ready or if they found their opponent, but
well, looks like he's still waiting.
Still waiting for this match. So
let's hop back to the desk while we figure this one out.
Yeah, sometimes because this is a Smash GG tournament, sometimes people take a little bit to
Yeah, so if anyone wasn't aware, we are running on a 5-minute delay just so our feature match players don't run at a disadvantage. We can only see the matches from one end as we sorry, the background music's distracting me.
Yeah. Can we mute the sound on this?
Let's just turn that down.
Yeah.
So we're running on a 5-minute delay. We'll only be able to see one side of the matchup as we don't have both players streaming the match to us, but we'll still do our best to provide the best commentary for all of our rounds. It's going to be fun.
All right, it looks like they're starting here.
Yep.
Oh. Never mind. They're still trying to figure out their direct challenge. Oh, they probably mismatched what they were playing for.
That's what
whether it was
like.
Traditional or not. It's so funny. They got to get an in-game way to do this for us. It'd make our lives so much easier.
Funny enough, I don't know if you played any Artifact when that game came out, but they have an in-game tournament system in Artifact, which was the one thing I thought they did really well. That was awesome.
I wish we had something like that, but looks like we're jumping into our match here. So
let's hop over for round 1 of the DWC Organizational. We've got UnPlugged Toaster on mono red and OBTheRealest playing our Ilharg the Razebore mono red deck.
That's not a keep. We're starting round 1 off with a mull. This is a good hand. This is the mono red high roll here. If you were keeping all 7, but we ship back an annex, I think, and then hope that we just curve out our terrains and it's good enough. But the key matchups in this for OBTheRealest, whose hand we can't see but whose deck list we had up, is he's playing big red, but he's got Lava Coils main. So just keeping the board clear long enough. Oh yeah, and he's got, Bone Crusher Giants. If he can just Bone Crusher Giant and Lava Coil 1-for-1 this hand, which it looks like he might be able to, there's a good chance. I mean, depends what this. I mean, the robber doesn't even get anything here. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough when robber, Oh yeah.
Double stomp start for OBTheRealest. Pretty good to hold off the early aggression that UnPlugged Toaster has tried to present.
And I mean, now you can just run him out.
Yeah. Follow up Annex, taken down by a Lava Coil.
Oh my.
And things aren't looking good for UnPlugged Toaster, but we found the 4th land off the top. Let's get Torbrand, Thane of Red fell down, and let's see what OB can bring to the table. 3/4 Tectonic Giant hitting the table.
To each opponent. Okay, that's not so bad.
Clean answer with the stomp with the Torbrand in play for UnPlugged Toaster, so all hope is not lost yet.
I wonder when you're playing against mono red though, how often you should. You got to Lava Coil the Annex though. You can't save it for Torbrand, right? Like no matter what, it's like they have too many Lava Coil threats. Yeah. This is an interesting decision. This is a crazy red deck. I'm loving this.
Both players trading blows so far to start this event off.
Yeah, a little bit of a think on this one for how you want to manage the decision.
Yeah, it looks like 3 damage hits the face, and land followed up with Bone Crusher Giant for UnPlugged Toaster.
Please play Razebore. Please have Razebore in hand. He's missing his 5th land. No, I wanted to see it so bad. The Ilharg into the Razebore, like the Razebore into Dracuseth. Because if you get that against...
Yeah, it looks like we still have a pretty straightforward attack here for Toaster, as he has the mana he needs to be able to castle Embreth, get in for a lot of damage.
Yeah, this is a beating for... This is tough. Whether you Embreth here, I think is a tough decision.
Yeah, well, OB's going for the block on the Bone Crusher Giant for a straight up trade.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
And now Toaster's just trying to decide if he's going to get in for that extra damage or not. Looks like he decides that he wants to get a Runaway Steamkin into play, and we're back to OBTheRealest.
Yeah, and he's just going to run out the creatures. I wonder if this is a Razebore, but I'm not sure it's good enough anymore. You're just dead, actually. A single creature isn't enough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Going to need to get 2 things into play. Skargan Hellkite is the play.
I don't think it's enough.
But that might be all she wrote.
Because the Embreth... does the Embreth kill you? Hold on. Because you block Torbrand, you take... Oh, you only take 6. No, you take... Yeah, never mind. You take 8, right? Just with Castle Embreth? Oh, that
that Rimrock Knight off the top is definitely
you're dead
going to close this one out.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead anyway because of the Castle Embreth and Torbrand. Man, Torbrand just does so much extra damage. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Looks like we're Boulder Rushing the Fervent Champion, activating the castle, and that's going to close out our first game of the DWC Organizational as UnPlugged Toaster goes up 1-0 against OBTheRealest. Let's hop over to sideboards to see what Toaster decides to go for.
These red cap melees against Chonk mono red combo. Oh my lord.
Yeah. Looks like the red cap melees are going to be pretty quick auto clues. Interesting if you want to have the Lava Coils in your deck as well. We didn't see any Ilharg the Razebores for OB that game.
You didn't see anything. I don't know what was last cards in his hand, but I'm assuming he was stuck with big chonkers in his hand and just couldn't cast them. But yeah, I don't think you'd bring in Lava Coils from what you've seen. Yeah, it's tough to say, but you definitely are bringing in, the red cap melees. I think that's probably close enough if you're really worried about winning the mirror and you think we have deck lists though. Deck lists are public, so I like bringing in the Experimental Frenzy actually because you might need a way to get past 1-for-1 trades. I don't know, it's tough though because I feel like if the big red deck wins, it's winning by miles.
Yeah, it looks like Toaster is deciding to bring in some Lava Coils, doing a pretty normal sideboarding plan in the red mirror, but obviously have to make some other considerations as this is not the normal mono red matchup.
No, this is not the normal mirror. Yeah, it's kind of, I always forget when we're casting that deck lists here are public due to the way Smash GG works. It's the only really fair way to do it.
Yeah,
because we're also
streaming some people's matches, so we want everybody to be on the same playing field.
Yeah. So everyone knows. So he knows that he's paired against this really big red deck. You know, DWC. It's wild. I wish we had that view of the other side of the board, but
looks like we have a very good opening hand for Toaster here. 1 mana, 2 mana, and a plays and a Torbrand to close it all out. So OBTheRealest on a mulligan to 6.
And we pick up a Steamkin. I think this game might be over in short order.
Well, let's see what OB can bring to the table. Just a mountain and back to Toaster. Toaster in for 1. Going to follow up with a runaway Steamkin.
This is... I have a bad feeling. I don't think that there's a way... Got the nice fancy art. I'm not sure there's a way you can do enough here. This Lava Coil is...
Pretty clean Lava Coil on the Annex here. We're going to get in for a lot of damage. Boulder Rush onto the Fervent Champion. We're coming across for 6. OB already down to 12. The pressure's on.
I mean, it might be over in 2 turns here.
Storm's Wrath.
Hitting him with the nice, too. You love to see it. Wow, that was really good. That's a clutch. He needs a follow-up, though. I think he needs another one.
Yeah, I mean, Toaster gets to replay out an entire board now with a Steamkin followed up by a Rimrock Knight.
This Lava Coils in the mirror is just... Getting these Tectonic Giants is just too much.
Interesting decision here if you want to get the Torbrand out onto the table or just cleanly answer the Tectonic Giant with the Lava Coil in your hand.
I think you just want a Lava Coil. It's not ideal, but I don't think you want to lose bodies. I don't think you can trade because apart from the Storm's Wrath, I'm not sure that he can beat you on board, but it looks like we're going to elect to just smash.
Honestly,
this
tough. Might not be the worst decision as both your creatures straight up trade for the Tectonic Giant, and now your Lava Coil on the following turn will deal 6 damage to any follow-up by OB. So you're pretty well set up to be able to get in for more damage on the following turn.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, this is a close one. If there's another Storm's Wrath here, though, oh my lord.
It's like Heraldic Banner comes down for OB.
Stuck on 4 lands, both games. And
it looks like that might be it. We get the good game.
Yeah, that's it.
And that closes it out as Toaster kicks the quick 2-0 win over OBTheRealest. Let's hop back over to the desk.
Quick game. That was the fun police. We had a chonk red, big fun mono red deck lined up that I think against a junky mid-range list, I think is actually unreal. I think that the big red Illarg the Raise board probably has a way better matchup against mid-range decks, right? But against the fun police, get out of here with that. You can't bring these. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, Standard's great right now, but one of the things that a good format has though is mono red, to keep the fun police from letting things get too crazy. So yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And we just saw, mono red just run over somebody with a normal draw. That's just a standard one. And we even had interaction on the side of the Chonk red deck, right? Double Bone Shaker Giant for the Stomp to stop the first 2 plays, trade even 1 for 1. But mono red is so efficient. All it's at every point in its curve has aggressively powerful creatures. Annex just maybe one of the reasons the deck exists, right? And Torbrand obviously looked like I don't know. That card just looked incredible in that match.
I mean, before Theros Beyond Death came out, mono red wasn't really a factor in the metagame. I mean, they had access to Torbrand. They had access to most of the cards in the deck, but what really has pushed this deck over is Annex.
Big time.
The addition of Annex to the strategy.
Well, it's the wrath protection, right? Mm-hmm. You don't auto lose to fires anymore when they clary on you, right? You still have some follow up, some bodies left over to put an Embercleave on. So Embercleave just also got better in mono red. It wasn't as good, I think, without Annex. Or sorry, it wouldn't be good without Annex, is what I should say. No, it got better. So yeah, it's just a huge part of the game. So looks like we're gonna try and jump into a backup match here. Get a second match going because obviously our mono red matchup went by pretty quickly. So we're gonna jump in. Again, everyone's quality is probably gonna be a little different due to screen sharing through Discord, which is the only way. So please petition WotC to add an in-game viewer tournament organization, because it would make our jobs to cast these tournaments much easier. But actually, the quality here looks like it's pretty good.
All right, let's hop over. We're tuning in to returning champion A. Benson just in time to watch his entire board get mass manipulation. Perfect time to tune in.
Somebody needs to clip that where it's like, okay, we're tuning into our backup match. It's just mass manipulation into concession.
Looks like that was the end of game one as Tiltman 1975 takes the win over Benson. But we'll get to see some magic going on here. Wow. That was the perfect time to tune in. Oh, man.
That was incredible. Holy. Oh, I know we're on a delay, but somebody in chat, they think we don't look like nerds. Well, you'd be wrong.
The boys look much cooler than you expected.
Yeah. It's okay. That's a little brain broken from that mass manip. It's a card you don't even see much anymore, right?
Yeah, haven't seen many mass manipulations floating around in a while.
That card is something else. If you stick it, games usually end.
Yeah. As we saw, as we tuned in. I'm just going to pull up Tiltman's list here so we can take a quick look at it. What we've got going on here. Looks like a pretty straightforward Simic ramp deck. We have Thassa Deep Dwelling, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, Cavalier of Thorns, Agent of Treacheries, Tamio, Nissa, who shakes the world, and 2 mass manipulations in the main deck.
This is a deck that I actually think is pretty good for Thassa. You know why?
What?
Tap Stream Trawler.
Tap Stream Trawler, yeah. Steals all their stuff with Agent of Treachery.
Yeah, this is Steely Hand. This is Mr. Steely Hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take all their stuff. But this looks like actually a pretty good hand for Jund Food. It's really mana hungry, but that's pretty normal for Jund Food, right? This is a very mana hungry deck.
Yeah, this looks like a decent start for them. You have the Goose into Trail of Crumbs.
Yeah,
really, two of your main engine pieces.
Yeah, you just play the trail here, and you got to start digging. You got to probably start playing for, just hitting your land drops off this. Obviously, Food is a hungry deck, a mana hungry deck, of course.
Absolutely.
But this is how the only way I feel like this deck loses is it misses land. It needs to start getting all the pieces together. It's such an engine based deck that it needs all of these pieces to come together. And I think one of the benefits that Simic Ramp has, it's a little more linear because it's consistent. It just has all these dorks and then all these payoffs.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely.
You can kind of draw them out of order. It's not a big deal. Whereas something like this happens now, we got to start, digging for.
Yeah, didn't find the land off the top there, so it looks like we're going towards a Trail of Crumb activation to try and find one of the top 2 cards. Let's see what Benson can find.
Okay.
Witch's Oven, Trail of Crumbs. Witch's Oven, not a bad pickup here, as we found a Cauldron Familiar off the top of our deck.
Yeah, this is really good for being stuck on land. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like he's going to get the Familiar and the Witch's Oven into play to get your engine fully assembled. We've got the Oven, we've got the Cat, and we've got the Trail of Crumbs.
Missing land there is the only thing that makes this from being just stone cold insane. If we had the 3rd land to get some value end of turn with sacking a land. But, I mean, this looks like a really powerful start from the Simic Ramp deck. Thassa does a heap of work in these decks. That card is really hard. I mean, this might be impossible for Jund Food to interact with, right? There's no epic downfalls in the sideboard or anything, and it's not like it's going to be a creature.
Yeah, let's take a quick look over at Benson's list here. No answers in the main deck to get that thing off the board. And the sideboard...
there kind of isn't really answers.
Not really.
No, yeah, I mean...
There's Duress, Angrass Rampage, Crone War. Yeah, I don't see anything that's going to get this Thassa off the board.
Yeah, this Thassa might be a little much. It's crazy. It's crazy. That card, as just an enchantment for value like this, might end up just running away with this game and stealing everything. It's tough. We'll see what the follow-up is here. But I feel like if it's something like a Cavalier of Thorns, this game's going to be really hard.
Yeah. Breeding Pool untapped, Risen Reef in play, almost as good.
Still pretty insane. I mean, especially when you don't see the Mayhem Devil on the other side, you feel a lot better. There's no Mayhem Devil. You're a little safe. I don't know if you don't know if he has it, but I mean, Mayhem Devil's one of the cards out of Jund Food that you might actually call broken.
Yeah, that card very good at cleaning up your opponent's boards.
If Benson had Mayhem Devil already in play here, I think this game's over. I think you just mow down everything and the game ends. If you have it early, Mayhem Devil shuts down just so much that people are trying to do if it involves smaller creatures. But yeah, it looks like we're having a tough time getting,
Well, we found a few more lands, tons of Korvolds in hand. So if we can manage to, Here we go. Tries to go for a Corvold. Doesn't have the food sufficient.
There we go. Now we do.
Sacks the cat. Here we go. Corvold's coming down.
If this gets Agent of Treachery,
Are we close enough to be able to do that? What is it? Five lands in play, 6 on board. Yeah. One away. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an exciting next turn for Tiltman.
Yeah, this is close. This is a tough one. If this is an Agent of Treachery on the Corvold, I think this game's over. Because then you take the Corvold and then you take the Witch's Oven, right? And then the game ends?
Yeah.
Holy, Thassa looks insane here. If this deck just that's okay. It could have been worse. Okay, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
That's still really bad.
It's still not good.
It's still really bad. Yeah, the Steely Hands deck. Taking all your stuff. How do you get back in this if you're food? I guess you prioritize the life total maybe. And just try and get them with cats. But the problem is I think this Corvold's going to end the game in short order.
Yeah. Corvold obviously not as terrifying out of the Simic ramp deck as it is out of the Jund Food deck, as the Jund Food can make it really big, really fast with multiple cat oven activations in a turn. But Benson goes towards the follow-up Corvold on his turn, and we're going to go back to Tiltman. Let's see what his follow-up is now. But yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you, that just another big threat out of Tiltman is going to close this one out real quick.
Yeah, the Jund Food start was too awkward. It was that critical turn 3, because one of the ways Jund Food has to play out is it's got to run all of its stuff out really quick and then start casting its haymakers. But now look at our hand. We drew all our haymakers. We're stuck. We can't move. Whereas this deck just curved on us with, this Thassa generating just infinite amounts of value here now, I think.
Stumbled early, and the Simic ramp deck has just gotten a little too far ahead. We found an Earl off the Cavalier of Thorns activation.
And we found a Fabled Passage, so now our stolen Corvold for blue-green is just massive. Woof.
Things aren't looking too good for our returning champ, let me tell you.
This looks insane. I'm a fan. Yeah, I love the blue-green ramp strategies, though. I always have been a big advocate for them on the podcast. I talk about them all the time. I think they're really, really enjoyable to play.
Yeah, I mean, this deck was, you could say, top dog in the format at the beginning when Theros had just come out. And it has really fallen to the wayside. And,
A big problem with the deck is that if you don't sort of get ahead really solidly with both your creatures and your mana, the problem is that ECD, Elspeth Conquers Death, can actually just wipe you. If a control opponent sort of Elspeth Conquers Death, your Nissa, or not Nissa, sorry, Thassa, and then they Teferi Minus and pick up their Elspeth Conquers Death, the game's over.
Yeah.
Because you have all these clunky bombs, but Elspeth Conquers Death will just exile all of them. You won't get value from your Cavalier. But it looks like we're just going absolutely ham for the blue-green side here.
Thassa activating on end step here for Tiltman, deciding what he's going to bounce. Great options between Risen Reef, Cavalier of Thorns.
Look at the synergy in this deck. We could sacrifice our Cavalier of Thorns to our Corvold and then get back anything in our graveyard. This is just insane deck building. You just put Mass Manipulation in to find other combos in your deck.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like we milled over an Agent of Treachery on Tiltman's side, so that play, we might actually see that exact play.
I think he's going to be... I think he might attack for lethal before that happens. I'm trying to think how you get out of this. I don't even think you can cast Agonizing Remorse. You maybe have to Pelucranos and fight for the board.
I think it's a little too late to fight for the board at this point.
Right, but then... Yeah,
you don't have enough lands to be able to activate the Pelucranos when it comes down.
That's what I mean. I'm wondering if there's even a way out.
I don't think there is. I think this is all she wrote.
I think this green-blue deck is one of those decks that might have free wins against certain decks, which is always a hallmark of a good standard deck. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how you get out of this one. It looks really tough.
Looks like Benson goes towards Pelucranos, uses the Witching Oven to sacrifice that Pelucranos. We get 2 foods. Gonna try and make this Corvold pretty big, and he's searching for something.
Yeah, he's digging, and he's trying to get engine pieces here. Oh, another cat actually giving us just some blockers. Yeah, you just sack the cat, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you just use the cats and go for the block. Is that... We cast this cat from our hand, and we have 2 blockers on the ground. The Corvold in the air doesn't kill us. Ah, this is close. If Jun Food sneaks this out, I take back everything I said. It's the greatest deck that's ever existed. Yeah, this is close. Yeah.
Well, turn passes back to Tiltman. Let's see if he can close this game out before Benson can claw his way back into it. Agent of Treachery coming down and top right for A. Benson as Tiltman takes down his first match of the day. Let's hop back over to the booth. All right, that was a exciting game we got to see.
Blue-green looking.
Simic Ramp just having its way with Jun Food.
Yeah, it didn't look, that looked rough. Although I will say it probably looked a little more one-sided than it actually was. There was a chance. I mean, Corvold in that deck is so much more powerful than a stolen Corvold on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, so that Corvold looked huge. You know, that Arboreal Grazer blocking it there was really, really big, actually, you know, because that game could have actually been a lot closer than it seems. Although the Cavalier of Thorns also has reach. Yeah,
the Cavalier of Thorns could have jumped in front of it. We could have picked up the Agent of Treachery from our graveyard that we milled the turn before, and then the same play pattern would have played out.
Yeah, I don't think there was a way out. Plus, I mean, he has so much mana, the Thassa can start tapping the Corvold if it really cares.
Yeah, I think really the story of that game was the turn 3 Thassa for Tiltman and the stumbled on lands for Benson.
Yeah, Thassa just felt like it ran away with the game as soon as we got a Risen Reef follow-up. You know, it's funny, that was probably the most innocuous, you know, passive follow-up possible, Risen Reef, right? Your turn 5 or 4, you know, your 5 mana play is Risen Reef and a tap land. And it crushed the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, it absolutely ran away with it because it's just too much value.
Yeah, I mean, Tiltman got to establish his engine before Benson could get anything going, and you're not going to be able to keep up on cards in that scenario.
No, even with your engine, that's one of the sort of drawbacks of Trail of Crumbs, right? Is it's hungry.
Very, very mana hungry engine, and I mean, while your opponent is just ramping every single turn and casting these huge haze makers, you just don't have any excess mana to be able to try and answer these problems that Tiltman's providing. You're just trying to draw into lands and find pieces, but you're just not fast enough.
Yeah, that was just a blistering start from the ramp deck. You know, that's what it's built to do. Like I said, I think Thassa lines up really well in the metagame right now. Does a lot of work. Yeah. So that was our backup match for round 1. We're probably close to the end. I don't know if we have any other matches still kind of going. It looks like we're getting results coming in, so we might be able to sneak over to somebody else. We're just searching for a backup match now. But as we go, we're trying to figure out who has the computers capable of sharing. This is the problem, you know. I'm sure a lot of people still play on Arena or whatever, of course. Why would, you know, or on a laptop?
Yeah,
looking for people with suitable computers to share with us. So, yeah, what else do we got here? But that was a great match. I'm really what are your dark horse picks for this tournament of the one-ofs, you know? I know that there's an Esper hero list.
There is an Esper hero list, which we haven't really seen.
So I don't think that, I'm not sure, but I feel like if Esper hero is built with the Hound and Oath of Kaya's, you have to just smash mono red, right?
Well, let's actually take this time to take a quick look at the hero deck. So it looks like we have the Hound Kurnos, 3 copies in the main deck. We also have Oath of Kaya's. You know, we have some life game. Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord in the main deck as well.
This has to have a good mono red matchup, which is not a bad choice. Oh, I'm curious. 3 Drown in the Locks in this Esper hero list.
It's hard to say because the Esper hero deck, you have a painful mana base and you have a slow mana base. And really a lot of the time, it really just depends if you can actually cast your spells in time. What do we got here?
I'm just seeing our list of people whose computers can handle screen sharing.
Good list of screen sharing here.
And we'll see who's still up, and we'll try and get a third match going for round 1 here. So we have backup matches going nonstop, ideally. Just trying to figure out from the back end who's capable. But yeah, Esper hero list is pretty interesting. I still think Thief of Sanity is one of those cards in Standard that could still see play, you know, because it's one of those cards. it's like robber of the rich, you know? Sometimes your robber hits a land or it's not good or you don't have whatever. You got to mull and then robber's good, right?
Yeah.
Thief of Sanity is the same thing where, you know, sometimes they don't have removal for your 3-mana 2/2 flyer and the game sort of just ends because you high roll them and take all their good stuff. It's a classic Steely Hands card, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It feels like when it's a 0 or a 10 card though, because sometimes if Thief of Sanity feels like it's unbeatable, and sometimes just garbage junk. But yeah, I'm excited to see it played out. All
right. It looks like we found another feature going into game three here.
Right at the beginning. Oh,
of the Esper Hero deck.
Perfect. Right on. Ooh, man, into the story.
That's an interesting card. That card saw some modern play for a little bit.
It is interesting. I mean, 4 cards is a heap of cards. And if you're planning on grinding, I mean, Esper Hero is underrated as far as its grinding capability. This is a deck that can grind out.
Yeah, it looks like we're up against blue-white control in the hands of Bradford Lee.
We're keeping this. I just pitched the Into the Story, but I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like Into the Story heads to the bottom for Kithis, and we're off to the races.
This is one of the highest represented, decks in the field, right? Blue-white control versus one of the one-ofs in, Esper midrange, Esper Hero. A return. This is a callback.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you have some pretty powerful threats, though. I wonder how much play draw matters in this matchup. I feel like it's so important. If you can get your hero out before, a Teferi can land and just start bouncing it over and over, or you lose a lot of value being on the draw as Esper Hero. Their counter magic is up in time. But we'll have to see how this plays out.
Yep. Island comes down. Hero Precinct 1 hits the table for Kithis, and we're back to Bradford Lee. Let's see what his turn 3 will turn out for us. Exactly that play pattern that you mentioned looks like it's happening. Teferi comes down. We're going to bounce this hero back to Kithis' hand, and then going to have to reestablish a board now.
Whereas if you're on the play, you get the 1/1 token here, and then Teferi's useless.
Yep.
Right? It completely warps the play pattern of Teferi versus play draw. I kind of dislike that about Teferi, that Teferi shuts down particular creatures early because of you play draw.
Yep.
And look, we're seeing that pattern here, where now Kithis is stuck in a really awkward position. Well, that's immobilized. Oh, geez, that's an Archon right away. That thing's got to go. But
Fortunately, we have an answer lined up.
Well, we don't have the black mana.
We don't, but the Teferi off the top is going to solve our problems for us.
I think you got to put it in tapped, and I think you got to bounce this thing. You can't risk. And because you get this Teferi off, the opposing Teferi off the board, this is actually insane.
This is a very good turn for Kithis. We get to establish our own Teferi on the board to completely shut off all the counter magic out of Bradford Lee's deck. And we get to get in and clean up the Teferi on the opposing side board as well. So
these Sorens actually look pretty good, because the only way really that blue-white can deal with a hero is to Wrath. And so Soren just rebuying them, and just you constantly have an army in the bottle growing, right? Mm-hmm. Although replaying this is still going to be an issue, because if there's a follow-up, Elspeth Conquers Death.
We found the untapped black land off the top of the deck for Kithis.
So holy,
Swift
is that
End's
so
coming
good.
down to clean up this Archon of Sun's Grace.
Do you play the other hero here?
Interesting decision. We have a Soren lined up, so maybe it's worth it.
And I wonder if Bradford Lee knew that Archon would die, but you have ECD for later, and maybe he's baiting him into playing out more creatures. And Kithis didn't take the bait here.
Nope.
Didn't take the bait and run out his hero. I think that's pretty good if the follow-up is, something like a Shatter, but that's a...
Follow-up Dream Trawler is going to make things very difficult for Kithis.
That's the tough one. Yeah, I think the way around this is, what do you got to do? You got to make them Wrath, right? You got to play it out enough things. It's so tragic, because then you lose on cards, but how else? You got to play out enough stuff. Interesting
spot here. Let's see what Kithis decides to go for. Mousing over 2-bound Lich.
This is such a tough one.
Yeah, I wonder if you're maybe you're kind of forced into going hero into a follow-up multicolor spell, and really going for the strategy you mentioned of going wide and forcing your opponent to wrath away their own Dream Trawler.
I think you have to. I think. It's close. I don't know. I'm obviously not very familiar with playing Esper Hero in this format. And I presume Kithis got a ton of reps in. He's a good player. I don't think that I know. Yeah, Kethis is a part of it. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's been a member of our Discord for a while.
Yeah,
Day 2's GPs pretty regularly. I remember him posting about that all the time.
Very consistent, very strong player. So has to be reasons that you're willing to take this matchup, and I'm sure he understands what he has to do against Dreamtrawler. I don't actually know. I'm not sure what I would do. It's tough whether you want to run out this hero or not. It's tough. I'm trying to think what we'd have in the sideboard.
Looking at their deck, we have 2 Liliana Dreadhorde Generals, which I assume have come in
100%
for this final game as ways to get Dreamtrawler off the board.
I assume the Narsets from the sideboard came in as well, right? I mean, they're not ideal, but they can help in this matchup to stop card draw. It's possible. Yeah, I'm really curious. It's unfortunate. I feel like his draw, if he'd had Thought or Ashers a bit earlier, would have been insane.
Yep.
See, I don't know. We should have played the hero first, I think, right? We played it anyway. It's tough.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a misstep there on Kith's side of the table. Dreamtrawler's going to come across 4 or 5 points of damage, taken down to Fairy Time Raveler. And
I think we just might have had a misstep in the decision. Yeah. It happens.
It does.
It's tough because Dreamtrawler is one of those cards that it feels.
It's an uphill battle.
It feels tough. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell this computer's chugging a bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. On their end, yeah, sometimes the quality won't be perfect. You probably can use that eventually at some point to tap down the Dreamtrawler. But then it gets hexproof and you lose your body. So do you want to use your Murderous Rider to fog? Have you been in this spot? I bet many of our listeners and viewers have been in this spot of, oh no, do I have to use my Murderous Rider as a fog? Mm-hmm. And it happens, and it always feels bad. This is why you need Thassa. You just tap it down. All right, we're good. Get out of here.
Well, let's see what Kithis decides to go for. A few different options. Sorin no longer guaranteed to hit the board as the Fairy has bit the dust last turn.
Yeah, it's a beating.
We're going towards Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord.
This is getting absorbed. There's zero chance you let this resolve. I assume. I would have tried for it pre-combat for the greed, though, in case the guy just didn't have an absorb, so I get the lifelink. Right?
Yeah.
I would have gone for the greed. And I'm like, I got to see how much time I need to survive. It resolved.
I
would have done it pre-combat. You got to get it. I think you got to get back a creature. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to die regardless. So maybe you do just have to go for the immediate value of Hero Precinct 1 back from the bin.
I think you have to.
This playing into the exact strategy you alluded to of just going so wide that they are forced to shatter on the blue-white side of things.
Yeah, this is what I think. I think I would have advocated for 2 turns ago, but I don't know. Like, I love this standard format for this, that you're priced into these strategies where you have to sort of interact this way. Ooh, a Chemister's Insight. Oof. Yeah, that's a card you don't see. It's not as common in blue-white. There was a time where Chemister's Insight was a just absolute dominant force in standard, but it's really dropped off.
We are starting to see them make their way back into main decks for blue-white as the mirror has become really prevalent, and that card has been very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why you see an uptick as well in cards like Commence the Endgame, right? Which is just a house in the mirror.
Yep.
Can't be countered. I'll tell you a story because I think we might be. Oh, I don't know. I can't tell if we're in garbage time or not.
I mean, Swift End on the upkeep to make that play that you alluded to earlier of fogging the Dreamtrawler for a turn.
Yeah, you gotta fog that thing. Oh,
Absorb comes down.
We're good because there's a chance. I mean, if we fog this turn, keeping our Sorin gives us so much time. Unfortunately, now we're 100% locked to lose our Sorin here. The other problem is that we don't really have a lot afterwards if we do get Wrath now. Right?
No, we're down to 0 cards in hand. We have a Murderous Rider on Adventure, and that's it.
Yeah, whereas I think if we made the play earlier with the Teferi and the hero, we might have had enough to force a Wrath while keeping the Sorin in hand so that we have some backup. Oh.
Time Wipe, just an absolute
no, it's not a Shatter
beating.
The Sky. Oh, no.
I think it's safe to say we're in garbage time now.
Oh, this game is all but over. Holy. That Time Wipe. Oh, my God. Well, you can force the wrath, I
Yeah.
guess, but it's not Shatter the Sky, so who cares?
Oh, no.
Oh, man. In my head, I'm like, well, if he shatters his Dream Trawler, sure, he's even going to draw a card because, you'll attack first. And it'll, be a 4 power. But at least, hey, we got the Dream Trawler off the board. Now, I mean...
Dream Trawler coming back down into play in Deputy Detention cleans up the Murderous Rider.
Hey, Thief, though.
Thief
I
is
do
sending
love
it
this
off the
card.
top for Kithis.
And before this is getting Elspeth Conquers Death, just for the pure kicking them while they're down, Get an Elspeth Conquers Death so that we can get our, things back from the graveyard in case some goes south, This one is probably over. Okay, that also...
Teferi Time Raveler hits the table, going to send this Thief of Sanity back into the hand of Kithis. We're going to be coming across for a lot of damage and more cards.
This game literally determined by so many just different decisions in a lot of ways. Also, the play draw mattered for sure.
And there's the concession from Kithis.
It was a good game, actually.
It was an exciting game 3 as we got to tune in.
Yeah, for the end. Yeah, I think if he was on the play that game, though, it's close. But, I mean, Blue-White had the classic just interaction all the way up to windmill slamming Trawler on 6. And if you think that they don't have the Liliana, then, I mean, what are they going to do, right? They have 2 cards. I don't know how many Trawlers we're playing, but even with a Liliana, I mean, we just Elspeth Conquers Death it. I'm sure there was an Elspeth Conquers Death. We couldn't see his hand, right? But... even if they do Liliana, you just ECD it, and then in a few turns you get your Dream Trawler back. So it's not even the end of the world, right?
Yep.
This is why the Blue-White deck is so powerful, right? Is that even something like Liliana minusing your Dream Trawler is not a big deal because in the end, you'll probably win the grindy value game because you'll ECD their Liliana, right? And then you'll get back your Dream Trawler, and then they're just in the same position they were. The problem is that, they have several copies essentially of Dream Trawler unless you can exile Dream Trawler, right? And it's just... It's too much.
It's tough.
That card is something else, man. Dream Trawler and ECD, man.
A very powerful combination. Bradford takes down his first round of the event with Blue-White control. We got to see a lot of Magic round 1. That was exciting.
3 matches.
Yeah.
That was awesome, actually.
That was great.
Is the benefit of mono red, actually, in some ways, You get to jump back and forth. I think our round 1's almost done. We're just waiting on 2 matches, maybe.
Yeah, we've got a few more matches waiting to close out. But I guess we can hop over to break, and we'll be back in a bit with round 2 of the organizational, unless you got a few more things you want to talk about.
No, I mean, throughout the day, I'm sure we'll get to enough. I can get some
All
more
right.
coffee in me. We take a break, make a coffee break, brunch break.
Yeah.
We'll be back with some DWC action shortly.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned.